Hello, good people, and welcome to Finance Skills Hub. Here, we learn, we connect, and we grow. You have ever built an Excel dashboard? I'm sure you've come across slices and timelines in Excel. These are tools that you can use to filter, slice, or dice so you can get different angles from the indicators you are reporting on. Now, beyond the filtering that slices and timelines give us, they also add a level of beauty to your dashboard. But that is only if you format it right. So in this short video, I'm going to show you tips and tricks you can use to format your slices and timelines in Excel. So if you're game, join me in Excel and let's get started. Okay, so as a case study, we are going to use this HR dashboard that was built in Excel. If you want to access the full tutorial on how this was built right from scratch, I've shared a link in the video description. You can also find a link to access the full video. But in this video, we just want to focus on the slices and timelines and how to format them properly. So as you can see, this dashboard is built in what we call a dark mode theme. The slicer is in the bottom right, showing departments. And then we also have timelines that also shows the years. So typically, these objects are used to filter, as I indicated earlier. As an example, if I've not selected anything, I'm looking at the whole organization. But if I select administration, you notice that it now breaks down and gives me details on just administration. Same for finance and so on. So if you are doing a presentation, you can zoom into these departments, or you can clear and then see the whole picture. Same with timelines. You can go back, let's say in 2019. The good thing about timelines is that you could actually band a couple of years, right, to get a cumulative display of what you are looking for. So what we want to do is that, assuming you've built this dashboard using the theme or the colors that you see on your screen, how do I format my slicer and timeline to sync with the theme that I am using? So for starters, let's first insert a default slicer. So to insert a slicer, it is an object that you can insert under the Insert tab, usually under the Filters group. Okay, so you have slicer here, you have timeline. So let's start off with slicers. So when I insert a slicer, because this workbook was created on a data model, I can actually insert using the data model, right? More on data models, we capture it in the video showing you the full tutorial in this exercise. So a data model has multiple tables connected. So if I come here, my slicer for this case study is coming from departments. Okay, so I'll roll down to the table that contains departments, which in this case is register, and pick my department, and I'll click OK. So this will give me the unique list of departments that I have in that column. So this doesn't mean you always have to insert your slicer from a data model. You can insert a slicer directly from even a table. You can insert it in a pivot table. It will basically give you the fields or columns in the table or pivot table or the data model for you to select. So in this case, we have department, and this is using the default theme in my office. Okay, so it appears like this. You know that if I were to use a slicer, it would be off and will not be able to sync directly. So we now have to go through settings to make this agree with what we have. Now, to be able to do this, we need to understand the parts. Okay, so a slicer as an object has different elements. So first, let's understand that there is the whole container, which we call the whole slicer. Okay, so that is, if you like, the area in the white space, including the border lines, the font and all that. Then there's the header, right? So this is the header department that has an underline too. So the header, the name and the underline all are parts of the element called header. Then you have these buttons, right, which form the critical part of the slicer. So if I click on administration, what it means is that I have only administration selected, and I expect the dashboard to show me the values that correspond to administration, right? I can hold control and then select another button, right? So these two have been selected and they have data. The rest I have not selected. So at the first level, we differentiate what we have selected that has data and what we have not selected, which may or may not have data. So if you see these deep blue buttons, these are what we have selected. If I clear, then it means that I have selected everything and I expect the report to show me everything. This is important. So now with this registered, let's go and then see how we can format it. So first, what you need to do is select the slicer, go to the slicer tab. Okay, then you see slicer styles here, right? So Excel already has some default styles, but most of them have a white background. So that's where the challenge is. So what you need to do is first duplicate. So you right click any of them and duplicate. Okay, so this means you are creating your own version. When you are done, you can apply a custom name to this. So for now, let's name this Finex School. I already have one named Finex, so I just want to modify this. So I'll push this here and then we go through the elements one by one. So for each element in your slicer, you have the option to format either the font, the border, or the fill color, right? So you select the whole slicer. I already showed you how the whole slicer looks like. That is the whole container. So I'll take the whole slicer and I'll go to format, right? So I'll click format. Then you see the formatting options here. So I can do font, I can do border, and I can do fill. Okay. Now, before we proceed, we need to understand that we currently don't have transparent background. So in place of this white background, we need to choose a color that matches the theme we are using in our dashboard directly. Okay. So that color in my case is purple. And that is what I'm going to use to fill the whole slicer. Okay. So for starters, I'll choose fill. It's currently set to no color, which actually displays the white. So I'll come to more colors. Okay. Come to custom, and the hex code or the RGB code for your color will now be put in here. I've already copied the hex code for this purple color, so I'm going to paste it here. So I've pasted it here directly. So it's 00194B hash. Okay. So you realize that this is the color that you see as the background in my dashboard. So this is 1/3 if you like. I'll click OK. So that is the fill. Then for border, usually we want it to be clean. So we'll take off the border lines. Okay. Then we come to the font. So for the font, we'll leave it at default. This font is not the button font. Okay. So you need to separate the two. So the default font is what we'll use, which will remain black. So now that we are done, we'll click OK. Okay. So you now see a preview to your right showing you how it's going to appear when you are done. Okay. So now that we are done with the whole slicer, let's move on to the header. The header in this current view is the department with an underline. So I'll come here, I'll choose header, then I'll come to format. So looking at how this is progressing, you know that we cannot put a black font on that purple background. So for the font color, we are going to change this to white. Okay, so for contrast, we change the font to white. So for the border line, we want to apply a line to this, and that is the line that you have here, which is currently blue. Okay, so the trick is first you have to choose the color. We want this to be yellow, right? So we'll choose the yellow color here. Then you choose the line type. This is very important. So you choose the line type when you are done choosing the color. So this gives us the combination we want. And for the fill, we'll leave it at no color. Okay. So again, second level is done. We now see how this is shaping up. Then let's go to selected item with data. So as I already explained, the selected item with data are the buttons we have currently selected. So this is the current shade of the selected buttons with data. We want this to move to this blue and then put in a white font, okay, for contrast. So for selected item with data, I'll click on format. Instead of this current shade, we are going to choose this blue for our fill. For border, we are going to choose none. We normally want to keep it clean. And then for the font, beyond the color, you could actually change the font type as well. So you come here and then you change this to color. Okay, then we click OK. Okay, so again, you see the preview, you are making progress. In some cases, you may want to format selected item with no data. In instances where you select an item and the data is not present, it gives you a certain shade. Okay. Truth is that in most cases, this is not always mandatory. Okay. Usually the selected item with data is good enough to go. The opposite of selected item with data is the unselected item with data. So like I showed you, this is what shows in white when we get our blue selected. So let's go to unselected item with data. So we'll come here. So we are going to leave the font white because it's going to be in a white background. For the border, we are going to leave it as it is. And then for the fill, we'll leave it white. So really, we are not going to make any changes here. We'll go ahead and click OK. So again, the unselected item with no data is really not mandatory. You can leave the default as it is. Okay. Now let's go on to hovering. Hovering basically means how it appears when you put your mouse on it without clicking. So usually you get this gold highlight as you move your mouse, right? In most cases, you can leave it as it is. So we'll leave the hovered selected item with data and for the last two as it is. Okay. So in real sense, when you format your whole slicer, your header, selected item with data, and the unselected item with data, this will cover a lot of the displays that you use in your slicer. When you are done, you click OK, right? So when you click OK, it should register as a new slicer here. So in this case, this is what I just did. This was the earlier one that was in the dashboard, right? So if I click on this, you notice that nicely it blends in as if it is transparent. Okay. Now, beyond formatting it, we also have the option to change the display, how we spread the columns. This has 6 departments. So we want to reorient and have the 6 departments in a horizontal display, right? So in the slicer tab, you can come here and in the number of columns, we can push this and make it 6. Okay. So once you have this, you can come and then stretch it like that. So this will now be the final slicer that will display in your dashboard. There are other settings. Okay. So beyond columns, you could also increase the height of the buttons. You could increase the width of the buttons. You can change the name or the caption. Okay. And then in the slicer settings, you can play with whether it should visually indicate items with no data and all those things, right? But the main thing here is done, which is basically formatting our slicer to agree with the theme of our dashboard. Okay, so now that we are done inserting and formatting our slicer, let's move on to timelines. So what are timelines? They are similar to slicers, but the only catch here is that they feed on only columns that contain dates. So if you have a pivot table, you have a data model, you insert timelines on the columns that contain dates, allowing you to break down by different timelines, year, quarter, month. Okay. So let's see how we insert a timeline. We'll go to insert. In the filters group, we'll insert a timeline. Because I'm using a data model, again, I choose from the data model. So it opens up the 4 tables that contain different date columns. In this data model, I have a calendar table called dates. In there, there's a column called dates. So I'm going to choose this, and this gives me the default display. So as you can see here. So again, we need to properly understand the elements so that we can apply the right formatting. So to make it easier, I'm going to proceed with the formatting and show you the different elements. So we'll come to the timeline. We'll select any of the existing timelines and duplicate. Okay. So let me call this finest skills 2. Okay. So first, the whole timeline. This is similar to the whole slicer. That's the container, right? The important thing here is to make the background the same as your dashboard color. So we'll select this, go to format, and for our fill, currently set to no color, we'll choose more colors, go to custom, and put in our hex code. So this is going to be my background color. I'll go ahead and click OK. So for the border lines, you can choose to make it clean, no border, and also keep the font. That's what I do in most cases. So this should be able to check all the boxes for formatting the whole timeline. I'll go ahead and click OK. Now, let's talk about the header. So the header here is the date as it is displayed. Because we are using, again, a dark mode, we have to contrast the font and make it white. So we will choose header, go to format. So this is our font currently set to black. I'm going to change this to white, right? I've noticed that in most cases, apart from the whole slicer, changing the font color will be enough, okay? So we'll leave the border as it is and we'll leave the fill as it is and we'll go okay. So this will now make our font for the header white. Now let's talk about a selection label. So usually when you are using timelines, you see that what you have selected will show in the top left side. So if I select a certain period, it gives me start to end. In this default view, it's showing all periods, okay? So what you have selected is what we call the selection label, right? In my final output, you see that I've selected 2019 to 2022. This is what I want to make white, okay? So I'll select the selection label, go to format. All we have here is the font color. I'll come here and then I'll choose white. I'll click OK. So that should make it white. Let's come to the time level. The time level is what is going to help you select year, month, quarter, depending on the date levels you have there. So this is what you have to your right. In this default view, it's showing months. In the original one that we formatted, it's showing years. So again, we want to format this to a font that has a white color. So I'll just make this white and I'll click OK. Then we come to the period labels. So the period labels are the year and month display that you have here, 2022 and the month names, right? So again, I'll just make this white. I'll come, instead of the gray color, I'll make this white. So period label 1 is the year display, and then period label 2 is the month display. So I'll choose period label 2 and then also make this white as we did. We click OK. Now, let's talk about the selected time block. This is the main element in our timeline, similar to the buttons we had in the slicer. So these buttons are what we are talking about. In the finished version, we have 4 in blue, 1 white. Okay, so the time block we have selected, we want to make this blue. So I'll come to fill and then choose this blue color. You'll notice that it has a certain gradient. You can choose to maintain the gradient. Okay, so I'll just touch the color and then we'll keep it at blue as it is now. For borders, we can choose to let it be at default or we can take off the border lines. Okay, so I'll click OK. Now, unselected item will be the reverse. I'll leave it as it is, gray. So we'll leave it as it is, the fill, gray, and then the border as it is. We'll click OK. The last one here is the selected time block space. Okay, so this is what essentially demarcates the buttons. Okay, so we'll have to put in, if you like, a white color to clearly differentiate the buttons. So we'll come here. You see that's currently set to this shade. I'm going to make this white. Okay, and I'll click OK. So we have a preview that looks like what we want. So we'll go ahead and click OK. So once we click OK, we can now come and then apply what we just did, right? I have some variations here, but this is what we just created. Finest Skills 2. Okay, so I'll click this and you see this is what I have. So it's currently set to months. I can choose years. Okay, so this gives me that I can select 2019, drag it all the way, and so on. So at this point, if you want to make any changes like deepening the colors or bringing back the border lines, just to make sure that you get what you want, you can always go back. So if I select this, I go to my timeline, I select the particular timeline that I want, right click, I have the option to modify. Okay, so I can set this, select whatever I am interested in, come here, apply what I want, okay, and then proceed and click OK. Right. So Hopefully this gives you insights. When you create dashboard, don't just leave your slices and timelines at the default level. Add a bit more elegance to your dashboard by applying these tricks that you've learned. So thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you practice, and we'll see you in the next video. If this video was helpful and you would like to receive more of these videos directly on your WhatsApp, you can send ad to this WhatsApp number. We'll add you to our broadcast list so you receive our videos directly. You can also visit our YouTube channel, Finance Skills Hub. All our old videos are here. Please subscribe for notification of new videos, or connect with us on any of these social media handles. Thank you so much for watching.